the end of this podcast, we will all be on board with the way forward.
My opinions. So, so Ben, I know you're aware of it. We talked about it. Flighty, is this aware of? Kind of taking you through it for the first time.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
Very
caught
aware
up.
of it. So, for the sake of the listeners, then, on July the 3rd, Jessica Price, who, as I said, is a video game developer, specifically around MMOs, and I think she's a writer.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
been writing for
she's the
10 years, I
Okay.
think.
Should know better. So, a writer for Guild Wars 2, on July the 3rd, she starts quite an interesting thread around writing stories in games and the mechanics of those stories and what works and what doesn't. It's quite an interesting, kind of really in-depth, really inside baseball thing. A member of the community, and really invested member of that community, somebody that is heavily engaged and is within that community a lot and fairly well respected in that community, as far as I can tell, engages her and I'll say my opinion. I think it's pretty fucking objective that he engaged her in a very polite way, and he said, "Thank you for this. This is what I think about it. What do you think?" And I've got the whole. Let's read the thread, right? It's probably worth me kind of reading through it. So Jessica Price says, since I spent all kinds of time saying it on Reddit, Ask Me Anything, I haven't talked about actual game dev on Twitter in a while. Here's a thread about writing for PC character and MMO. Like I said, nerdy shit. He follows up with, the dirty secret is I'm not sure if it's possible to make an MMORPG character that's compelling, because people have different expectations about what that character will be, as opposed to pre-designed character in a single-player game. I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's cool for like an insight from a developer. I've got no problem with that. Cool shit. Then this chap, who, like I said, is a member of the community.
I think they pay him to make content on YouTube.
Okay, they pay him.
Yeah, I believe so.
Shit, that adds a new fucking dimension to this. But okay, so I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but it's spelled Deroir.
Roar.
The roar. Sure.
Deroir.
Right.
It is French.
So he chips in. He says, really interesting thread to read, and then an OK symbol. So he's a Trumpist already. We know. However, allow me to disagree slightly. I don't believe the issue lies in RPG genre itself, as your wording seems to suggest. I believe the issue lies in the constraints of the living story's narrative design. He's then got a couple of tweets after that where he basically just outlines what he thinks about it. All very, as far as I can tell, respectful. He's engaging. He's giving some, I wouldn't even say it's feedback. It's just that he's bouncing off somebody that's clearly a professional and giving his opinions on it. And then her replies, thanks for trying to tell me what we do internally, my dude. So she gets a bit angsty. His reply is, you're getting mad at my obvious attempt at creating dialogue and discussion with you instead of just replying that I am wrong or otherwise correct in my false assumptions. He's a little bit wordy. He's a nerd. Of course he's going to be. This is really disheartening for me. You do you though. I'm sorry if I offended. So he's already apologized. I'll leave you to it. That then leads to her kind of quote tweeting something to, what did she say? Let me see if I can find it. But in essence, kind of, mansplaining, and this is what it's like to be a lady dev or female dev and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, people react to that. She then comes up with a comment that she's not on the clock right now and she doesn't need to pretend to like these people. Then she says the next random ass hat that tries to tell me how to do my job will be, blocked, I guess. So that's kind of what it was. The internet obviously kind of latches onto it a little bit, which creates a bit of a focus on it. On July the 5th, her employers state that they fired her. Their statement is that recently 2 of our employees failed to uphold our standards of communicating with players. Their attacks on the community are unacceptable. As a result, they're no longer with the company. So as far as I can tell, you've got somebody that works for a developer. They've gone online, got a little bit angsty with members of the community. The employer is not like that at all. And I think this is where a lot of the misunderstanding comes in. We don't know what happened in that period. So we don't know what kind of dialogue she has with the employers, if any, or how constructive it was or whatever else. But regardless, 2 days later, she's fired. In my opinion, Private sector. She's acted on Twitter in a way that I think that if you're representing your company in some way, you definitely shouldn't. And as much as I don't like to see people fired, and I would never call for somebody to be fired, the private enterprise that she works for has clearly deemed that she's acted out of line and they don't want her to work for them anymore, and they've decided to fire her. For me, end of story. This is not end of story, as you can imagine. The internet is fucking just goes ablaze about it. All the kind of usual fucking shitheads on every side of the equation have got their own opinion on it. People are very celebratory that they managed to get somebody fired, which I think is fucking reprehensible. A lot of people crying about it in terms of what the fuck, what does this mean for the wider industry? Can people not speak out anymore? What if people are being harassed? And for me, particularly, like I said, I was fully prepared just to fucking ignore this one and just not pay any credence at all because I just don't care. I think it's a private matter between somebody and their employer. But in terms of fairly mainstream video game media, everybody seemed to completely be on one side of the argument in terms of one, she shouldn't have been fired. Two, they've treated her unfairly. Three, this is fully because she's a victim of some kind of harassment, sexism, whatever you want to call it. So she does an interview with Polygon, saying that the firing was unprofessional, which I think is really ironic considering the way that she spoke to people. And she accuses ArenaNet of just giving in to the mob. ArenaNet respond and say that they were actually closed on the day of the incident. They couldn't have acted straight away, but if they could have, they would have acted straight away. It's not that the kind of the kind of mob mentality built up to a point where there was too much pressure and they had to fire her. Just to add a little bit of extra context before we talk about it, a previous employer, Pazio Publishing, she left those on bad terms, saying that they asked her not to confront members of the community in certain ways, around sexism, etc. And fairly recently, like in May or something, she expressed happiness about the fact that Total Biscuit had passed away, and she said the kindest thing I can say is that I'm glad he's no longer around to keep doing harm. Since all of this has happened, she has come back on Twitter and is not apologetic, is very much kind of doubling down in terms of it was unfair dismissal and that she's taking a break, but she's not very happy about it, and basically just doubling down on everything she said. And my kind of takeaway is that if you look in general terms in terms of the reason to this, you've got video game media on one side of it who are saying that she is completely untouchable and this is something that the employer has done wrong, and that she should still be in a job and also should continue behaving the way that she is. And then you've got pretty much what I can tell, everybody that's outside of the game and industry media, just normal people with like 200 followers, but not fucking troll people, but just like normal fucking people that just want to say something about what's going on. They all seem to understand that this was completely out of order, and the employer's got every right to kind of dismiss it based upon it. And it's that disconnect, I think, between video game media and what general people think that has really annoyed me. I would be absolutely fine if the likes of Giant Bomb talked about this and presented both sides and said, look, this is the way that she behaved. But at the same time, we think that there should be benefit of the doubt and she should still be in a job. They didn't do that at all. They even portrayed it as the guy that engaged her was rude and he was patronizing and that she was polite. And I think that's fucking completely 180 in terms of what happened. So I know that was a bit of a long one, but that's my position on it, and it's good to have all the facts because I think.
I'm agree with you. I listened to Giant Bomb and the Beastcast, and there were definite facts missing from both sides. Flighty.
So here's the thing about internet discourse is that discourse on the internet moves at the speed of the internet, which is to say very, very quickly. So for ArenaNet to say that there wasn't enough time for pressure to mount is ridiculous, because discourse on the internet changes so quickly. And the unfortunate thing about Twitter in particular is that when you get wind of one side of an argument, it's difficult to kind of sift through all the threads and the tweeting and the subtweeting to kind of get a total picture of what's going on. So by the time the company like kind of got wind of this whole situation. There was in fact like a weird mob mentality on both sides going on. I do think that they were I think it was unethical of them to just kind of fire her without a vetting process. And also they fired what is this fella's name here? They fired somebody who defended her, like just for defending her, Peter Fries, which I would argue maybe was even more unethical. And I feel like with all of these things kind of accumulating together, it feels like they were being silenced and not really listened to. So that's basically their side. I mean, of course, the company has every right to fire them, but that doesn't mean that they're immune from industry and media criticism for doing so. So that was the risk that they took in doing that. Kind of like it was the risk that that young man took when he was replying to that woman's thread, because discourse goes both ways. Like if you respond to somebody, especially on their own Twitter thread, you should always expect them to fire back if they disagree with you. So, and I'm reading over the thread now. So we're kind of missing a little bit of information here. In his subsequent tweets, he goes on to say, when you want the outcome to be the same across the board for all players' experiences, then yes, by design, you are extremely limited in how you can construct the personality of the PC. But if instead players are given the option to meaningfully express their character through branching dialogue options, which also aren't just on the checklist for blah, 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 then perhaps players would be more invested in the role-playing aspect of that particular Morpeg. Here's the thing. Jessica's been working in this industry for 10 years. She already knows all of that. She's been through like the process of looking at all of this stuff. Like he's not bringing in a hot take. This is shit that the industry has been looking at and has been analyzing for at least 10 years. And speaking as a woman who has worked in several STEM fields, women get told literally every single day how to do their job when they already know how to do it. And it builds up and it makes you mad. And you just get sick and tired of not only people in your own profession telling you how to do your own damn job every day, but you get tired of random dudes like everywhere who like supersede your expertise with their confidence. And the unfortunate thing is that women are socially conditioned to be quiet when they're mad, to kind of bottle it up, to smile when they're mad. And fuck that. And I think that's what Miss Price was doing there, because we're tired. We're all so tired, and we're just done being quiet about it. So.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think I'd be the first to admit that there's definitely an issue just with online communities in general, interact. I think that it's a bit of a red herring to just kind of frame it as women. I think fucking everybody gets harassed, regardless of their sex, the color of their skin. Obviously, especially if you're in kind of a high-profile role within video game communities, being either female or being, black, whatever it might be, potentially you're going to be kind of you're going to be ring fenced for a little bit more abuse than others. But regardless, I guess with this one, what I would point out is that was this really the right fucking target for her animosity? Like, was this guy? I hate the word mansplaining, right? I think it's fucking Orwellian, weird speech that we've decided to invent in the last couple of years. But regardless, let's assume that is a thing. Was this guy mansplaining, or was he already an active part of this community and engaging with somebody that was openly putting out on Twitter? And we can say it's a personal Twitter. This was very much a public post of somebody that is fairly high profile within a very niche community online. She was openly putting herself out there. Did she not expect people to respond to that? And I would argue that maybe if somebody responded either who hadn't really thought it through or was being condescending, and maybe this is the way that I'm reading the tweets, but I don't think they're condescending at all. I think he's a little wordy. I think he's a fucking nerd. But he's trying to engage. And I don't think for a second that he thinks that this this person has no experience or is less experienced than him. He's just engaging with somebody. Like, I think there's a real trend right now to shut down conversation at the point where we deem that that person hasn't got as much experience as others. As an example, mansplaining. So because a man is a man or doesn't have the female experience, he's got absolutely no input or feedback or say or commentary even in what a woman's experience might be. I prefer the times where we actually engage each other and we talk to each other about that. And yes, obviously experience comes into that, and the person with the more experience can call that out and say, look, I've got experience on this, but that's still a dialogue. And just to close that dialogue off at the point where we recognize that, look, I am the woman and therefore you're a man. I don't even know if this person is a man. Like, I couldn't tell you because it's an online fucking avatar with some animated picture, and his name is, his or her name is completely, you know, isn't, doesn't give away their gender. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, the only thing she could potentially be annoyed at with this is that somebody has engaged a tweet that she openly put out there. And if, and I you know, it could well be the case, if she is getting a lot of abuse online or a lot of people kind of second guessing her, I would argue that this was a fucking terrible example of how to argue against that. And maybe she should find somebody that was being rude or was patronizing and argue against them and use them as an example to kind of improve the discourse, because all she's done here is just be rude to somebody that, as far as I can tell, was very polite. Like I said, nerdy, wordy.
I mean,
he wasn't being rude.
I think it was just
Well,
like,
here's
yeah.
sorry, just real fast. So Deror is a man. He has a link to his YouTube page on his Twitter, and
Okay.
you can see very clearly that he's a fella. He's got his face on his YouTube.
I don't like to assume, Flighty.
Here's the thing. Dudes don't get a say in what women's experiences are because dudes aren't women. Dudes don't experience the world the way that women do, just like white people don't experience the way that the world the way that black folks do. That's the same reason that like cis people don't get a say in what trans people experience, because
What do you mean by we don't get a say on experience? Because that doesn't make sense to me. I can't say what somebody's experience is. Only they can say what an experience is. But I can engage somebody, and I can empathize with somebody, or I could disagree with somebody. I could give them feedback on the way that they're behaving and suggest that if you do it this way, potentially you'd have a better outcome. And they're free to ignore it, and that's a dialogue. Why would we shut it down? And I think it's exactly what you've just outlined there, because somebody, and you know, I'm going to take this personally, and I won't, I promise you, but I'm white, I'm a man, so you've just shut me down from you've just shut me down from certain conversations. I've got a long history of very close friends who are female, and I'd like to think that regardless of whether I can one for one relate to their experience, I can certainly sit down with them and use fucking basic empathy as a human, regardless of my fucking gender. Like, if you know, whether I agree with it or not, we're in 2018, and or you know, the progressive mindset is that we should be tearing down gender walls. And as far as I can tell, this is the opposite example of putting them back up and saying, actually, you know what, you get back into your little ring fence, and you couldn't possibly comment on our experience. And I think that's the key word, I guess, is commentary. If I'm to speak to somebody that's a woman, that's a person of color, people put it, or whatever else, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to set an agenda for that. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to define. Fucking engaging that person as a human, which I think is healthy, and that's the way we've done it for hundreds of thousands of years. And that's what this guy was doing. She put something out there on Twitter. It wasn't even a personal conversation in like a restaurant or something. This was something that she wrote on Twitter as a named developer of a video game and a prominent member of the community. And we can disagree on this. I don't think this is an example of mansplaining. I think this is somebody constructively adding to an argument or to a thought process.
I mean, it does. The problem there, and I would like to kind of clarify, the thing is that people who are in social and numerical majorities think that they like get to like talk over people in social and numerical minorities, when the thing is that you need to listen. Talking isn't really helping, because like we have our own experiences, and we don't need other people to like come in and, you know, tell us how to fix things. Like
I'm worried about talking over you. I think that'd be really ironic.
Well,
like,
the thing like empathy is absolutely something that you need, but the important thing about empathy is listening. And when you come in there with your opinion as a majority, your opinion that gets listened to anyway by default, that's not really helping the conversation. You need to listen and then ask what you can do to make it better if it's a thing that you agree that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, so and I totally agree that there's definitely an issue. There's clearly a fucking issue, like I said, in terms of discourse in general, and I think you can filter down in the way that certain subsects of people interact. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fucking idiotic guys on the internet doing fucking idiotic things, but we're specifically talking about this example. So is this an example of somebody trying to talk over somebody else, or is this an example of somebody trying to engage in dialogue with somebody else, regardless of the gender?
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. I think this is definitely somebody who and the thing is that I don't think he was being malicious. I don't think that he was like looking at the thread that she made. It's pretty evident in the first set of tweets that he made that he did want to engage in a dialogue. But the thing is that her experiences made her respond to that in a very specific way. And her experiences, like nobody can respond to things without their own experience and their own bias. So when she replied, "Thanks for trying to tell me what we do internally, my dude," he like went in. His next comment is, "You getting mad at my obvious attempt at creating dialogue and discussion with you instead of just replying that I'm wrong or otherwise correct me in my false assumptions is really just disheartening for me." And what he's doing there is he's asking her to coddle him. Be nice to me, even though you're having a bad day or a bad week or a bad career because, you know, you're being talked over by people in your industry. Like, I'm not saying that he was going in there and being like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna prove this cunt wrong, but like you're right, they're on Twitter. He needs to be prepared for that. And it, like, you know,
so does she, I would argue. Like, it's
well,
not...
yeah, but like she, you know, she went in there and she was like, well, don't do that. Like, she wasn't saying like, you know, sorry, let me read over this thread here again.
I felt like she snapped. It was like, it builds
Yeah,
up. It wasn't just that one tweet that she would have done that. I mean, she probably gets tweets like that every day, all day, and it's just she snapped at the wrong person, and then the internet found it and retweeted it, and then it snowballed from then on.
I actually have a quote from Price that she sent to Kotaku. It was, I'll actually put the link in the chat here. Where is this article here? It was, Price told Kotaku in an email, a straw that broke the camel's back moment. Quote, "By the time that guy came along, I was so tired of having random people explain my job to me in company spaces where I had to just smile and nod, that it was like, no, not here, not in my space." And really, your Twitter page is your space. When you start a Twitter thread, that is your space. People can absolutely come in there, but like, you're going to get fired back on. And I think that guy got a little fragile in his response to her "thanks for trying to tell me what we do" tweet. Like, I get it, his feelings were hurt, but like, your feelings get hurt every day. You just need to get a thicker skin, dog.
Yeah, and again, I think that applies to both of them. But I guess what I would argue is the onus is completely on her. She's in this kind of... So what she's setting out is that she works for this video game development company. She's talking some inside baseball in terms of how we go about things. Somebody from the community comes in, makes a comment on it, and I agree. Like I said, he seems like a fucking nerd, and he's way too wordy.
He pretty much just said, like, have you tried branching dialogue paths? And she was like, yeah, I fucking have. I've been doing this for 10 years. Yeah. I have thought about that, and I think for me, it sounds like she snaps, but I also think that it sounds like ArenaNet don't have a harassment, like, they don't deal with it well, and that's something that has actually, since this has happened, there's quite a few I've read developers going to their staff saying like, hey, you get any harassment, or you just, getting wound up on Twitter by people explaining things to you.
Delete
You know,
your
you
Twitter app. I would.
no,
I
come
would
to us.
argue.
We'll help it. We'll support you, and you know, and work out how we move forward, and how it, you know, if you need a bit of time off or something like that, they can help her. And it sounds like ArenaNet didn't have that in place. They weren't helping their developers, and when she snapped, they were like, "Oh, see you later."
Well, they actually said that she had ever come to them and talked to them about it. The fact that she feels she's been harassed. I don't think she's a victim. I don't think she sees herself as a victim. So I don't necessarily want to bring harassment into this. I think that she's more than prepared to kind of fight her corner and wherever else. But what ArenaNet did say was that if any of their employees do feel harassed, obviously they could go to them. I don't think that she ever did. So why would they know about it? But what they will know, corporate standpoint, is that they've got somebody who is clearly working for the company and is talking about inside baseball stuff and then totally fucking flips out on some members of the community. Like we can argue about how well these people interacted. I think both of them. I never want to speak to this guy ever in my life, and I certainly never want to speak to Jessica Price. Regardless, it's like, you know, it's an interaction. But from the company's point of view, and it isn't just this thread, it's a long history of the way that she's spoken to individuals within the community, of the attitudes that she carries. You know, she says at one point, I'm not on the clock now. I don't need to pretend to like you. I think, you know, I could be reading too much into this. What I see and what I'm reading from her character is that she probably doesn't have a lot of time for the general demographic of people that are playing this game, and she comes in with a lot of assumptions about what these people are. And like she said, she doesn't need to pretend that she likes them anymore. And I think anybody saying that online who's clearly being in some ways the face of a game of a development company, it's not going to go down well. And we can argue the toss on corporate responsibility and, you know, what corporations should and shouldn't be able to do. But I can tell you from personal experience that if I was to ever go on Twitter and start tweeting at customers of the company that I work for, in even a fraction of the way, in terms of animosity that she has, I would be leaving the very next day. They would fire me within 24 hours as well. So I think she's either been very naive.
They would have a
She's in
process,
bubble, and
though,
she thinks
wouldn't
she
they?
can get away with stuff like that.
They would have a process. It sounds like this. I read that Jessica, her manager wasn't even in. He hadn't even come in before she was fired. There's a process
the company
usually.
was closed on the kind of the day before, but
Yeah.
But I get that. You know, in my company that wouldn't go down, but we're heavily. You know, there would probably be, you know, a suspension and then an investigation and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, U.S. employment laws being what they are, and probably the nature of this line of work, probably not going to be the case. I think a missing part of this is what that conversation sounded like. I very much doubt that this was a straight up, right, you've done this, you're fired. I imagine there was a bit of a dialogue, or at least there's been previous dialogue. And
she said there hadn't
this
been.
person and the chip that she fucking has on her shoulder and the way that she engages with people. If I was an employer, like, this would probably, you know, if we're talking about the straw that broke the camel's back, potentially from their perspective, this was as well. Like, she's got past history in terms of engaging with communities of companies that she's working for negatively, or at least in a way that they don't want her to. And she's done it again. And from my perspective, like I said, I'm never in this camp. And you see it on kind of both sides of the political spectrum, people trying to get people out of jobs. I think, like I said, I think that's fucking disgusting. But certainly I can understand from a corporate point of view why you wouldn't want somebody online, whether they're, you know, if somebody's getting harassed, that's one thing. At the end of the day, you're never going to fix it. You can't fix fucking Twitter at the end of the day. You know, there'd have to be some other kind of solution to that. I haven't seen any harassment. I think the labeling of what harassment is and isn't is grey in this. I think some people would consider what this chap is saying as harassment. I definitely don't. I'm sure she's had harassment as a game developer. I'm sure lots of other game developers do, but I would be very surprised, you know, if we want to bring kind of gender into it. I would be very surprised if, for instance, if this was the guy that led the No Man's Skies development team, and he came out and he started fucking raging on members of the community after the game bombed. I would be very surprised. And, you know, to go back to why
it'd be different kind of harassment, though, wouldn't it? Like, women get different harassment, and I thought it was kind of just like a known fact that women get, you know, harassed way more than men, especially in game development.
Got any examples of her being harassed that there's difference to men, or are we just making assumptions on that?
Wow.
I think you need to do your own research there, dog. Like, there are plenty of examples of women being treated differently.
But we're talking about Jessica Price. So I'm not talking in general.
Honestly, I don't think I've seen that, but to be fair, I haven't really been mining for it. In that particular thread, I
There's been a
don't
lot of
think.
light shed on this in the last 2 weeks, and I'm like nothing has been. I've been looking for that specifically, but considering the outlets that have commented on this, so your Kotaku's, your Polygons, your Eurogamers, who are all extremely to the point of, and this is why I wanted to talk about this today, to the point of fault as far as I'm concerned, of not presenting the whole story. I've not seen a single tweet that they've managed to surface of any kind of I don't know, kind of sexual harassment, name calling, anything like that. I get the impression that this isn't a person that necessarily is what fuels her. I think she's of a particular political persuasion, a very fired up political persuasion, and she's got her views, and more power to her. But I think the reality of the situation is that if you're representing a company online and you're throwing those views about, potentially that's gonna backfire on you.
I mean, harassment isn't as clear as just like name calling. It's been second guessed every single time, every single day. You suggest something, and there's men everywhere saying, "Oh well, no, I don't think you should be doing it like this."
Is it just men that do this? I'm struggling to.
In the tech jobs that I have had, yeah, it's just dudes
Just
doing
men.
it. Yeah. And the thing is that all you have to do is just listen to women in tech. Like the stories that they have are valid. Like we like I said before, we have our experiences. Like it's not some grand internet conspiracy that we're all trying to you know, bring down the man or something like that. Like we're just telling our stories. So um and the I mean, we do have chips on our shoulders, and it's because usually companies are never on our side when shit like this happens. It sounds like ArenaNet has never been on her side because a lot of us don't feel comfortable going to our companies or our HR departments to help us out because then we're seen as troublemakers. Right off the bat, people will have their eyes on us, and then they'll come up, just like in this case, they will come up with any wet, paper thin excuse to fire us. So
But they
we
fired
have
a man as well. This was a man getting.
This very much smells to me like he said he gave him an ultimatum because he's
Again,
apparently
we're just
left on
making
good.
assumptions. But again, just to get like, I'm not going to sit here for an instant and say that it's not a harder digital life as a woman. Of course it is. Life in general is harder as a woman. Absolutely, 100% that it is. In this specific example, and I don't think it's very useful just to kind of, it's reverse sexism, really, isn't it? In just saying, well, men are doing this and men are doing that. But regardless, I think that in this specific example, I've seen no evidence that anybody has said anything fucking crazy to her leading up to this. And regardless, I think it's a really bad, like, why this person, like this person that's engaging it really constructively, why do it in this kind of way? Why not engage one of these people that is really like harassing it? I think she'd get a lot more sympathy for that. And regardless, like I said, it's not for me to say whether or not she should have got fired. To be honest, if it was up to me, like, I would rather that she didn't get fired for this, and it was just a kind of talking to in terms of, look, you just, if either you needed to be able to handle yourself on Twitter a little bit better, or just get off there and carry on working on the game, or just don't present yourself as being associated with this game if you're going to talk to community members in this way. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was honestly, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said the wrong thing to the wrong person, and everybody runs that risk every single day. It sucks. It sucks when it happens, absolutely. And his feelings are valid. I'm not going to say his feelings aren't valid because, everybody's feelings are absolutely valid when it comes to stuff like this. But like excuse me, it's a difficult situation to be in because you can't there are no winners here, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like ArenaNet like has no regard for its employees, and I think that kind of opens up to a much larger aspect of unethical practices in the game industry as a whole. There's no regulations happening there because it's a relatively new industry, and nobody has really known how to handle things like this quite yet. And this whole controversy is kind of opening up more and more conversations about that with the International Game Developers Association, which, as far as I can tell, is really the only organization that kind of holds companies accountable and kind of brings these things to light and wants to have discussions about how to fix it. But just as things are now, like it's kind of like here in the state of Wisconsin where I live, it's kind of like being a trans woman in the workplace, or really a trans person, period. You can be fired on the because you are trans and it's not illegal for you, and that's because there's no regulations there. So I think that's kind of being paralleled right now, because we are living in the information age, and we are like, a company has no right to tell a person that they should stay off of Twitter. Like, that's none of the company's business. And when you are off the clock, like, you get to do and say what you want. Like, you're a human being, and like, you don't have to like the people who you're making stuff for or who you're working for. It's like being a fast food employee and saying like, and firing somebody because they don't like the people who they are serving when they're off the clock. Like, people on the whole are assholes, and like, especially gamers, a lot of gamers are really entitled to like the content that they get, but they don't
How
realize
dare
that
you?
and the
So
thing
true.
is that there's no empathy there. Uh like, there are human beings making these games, and I think a lot of people kind of forget that, because like, you really only experience these people digitally without seeing their faces or knowing who they are. And I think it's really easy to kind of lose your empathy for
Mm.
people that you can't see or interact with.
I don't disagree with really anything said there, but what I would say is extremely naive to think that, and this isn't me calling you naive, but from her perspective, she's in her Twitter bio, she literally states that she's part of the ArenaNet narrative team, and clearly the things that she's talking about are about that game, that IP that belongs to that company. We can argue the philosophy about it all day, whether she's off the clock. It just doesn't work that way. If you're talking about work, especially if you're talking about work that you're doing, and certainly if you're name checking the company that you work for, and if you're engaging with customers of said company, it's just, unless you speak in a very particular way, it's just not going to go very well. And I'm very, very skeptical that this company doesn't have some kind of social media policy, because I know my company does, and the most backwards old school companies that you'll ever meet, and we've got a social media policy. And in essence, that social media policy is shut the fuck up, don't talk to customers, don't talk about work, which I'm very happy to do. But I get in her line of work that it's tech based. It lines up more with Twitter. You're going to want to talk about it. I think it's a real shame that she started that. Really, I reading through that, then I thought that was a really interesting thread. I'm interested in writing in games, and then for some nerds to comment on it in, I'm sorry, people seem to disagree with me about this. I think I'm in the majority, which I appreciate is apparently not you these days. But I think most people look at that and they see it as innocuous. This person was commenting in quite a verbose way, but there was nothing. I think you said there was nothing kind of insidious about it. And potentially it is the straw that broke the camel's back, and I get that argument. But if I was going to lend any credence to that, I would say that by now she would have apologized in some way for the way that she spoke to that particular person. I don't think she has. I think she's doubled down on this, and she felt that she was right to speak to that person in that way and to engage with the community in the way that she has. Let's move on slightly in terms of what do we think about her. And I think I know how you feel about this, Ben, but in terms of Flight, what do we think about her kind of basking in the fact that somebody just died of cancer? Do we think that is a nice thing to do? Is that a progressive thing to do?
Well, I think Total Biscuit was an asshole. I view death a lot differently than a lot of people, culturally speaking. I don't think death is a very like precious or sacred thing. So I'm not bothered when people say that they're glad that someone's dead, because they're dead. They don't care. I personally don't think that there's like, that the ghost of Total Biscuit is gonna come back and like be super offended by what she said. Like,
No, but his wife would be upset. I think that's the argument, isn't it?
but like, Total Biscuit was definitely like a catalyst of a lot of abuse from Gamergate. He himself never did any abuse, but he gave a lot of people the agency to be abusive during Gamergate, and I think that's probably what she was referring to. I don't think it's very polite to be, openly glad that someone's dead, but I also have been in a position where, I have been legitimately glad that someone is dead and not around anymore. So like I definitely see and appreciate both sides of that.
Mm. But I guess if you work for a video game company, prolific video game commenter dies, that's probably a different
Well, he's not
situation.
going to make any bad videos about her.
Yeah, I mean, like just because he was like a prolific video game commenter doesn't mean that he wasn't like an asshole. And like just because you're a big name in an industry doesn't it doesn't make you immune to criticism like that.
I mean, she was
So
calling him an asshole before he died. Then when he died, obviously he was in the news, so it gave her a bigger platform and people a bigger platform to say, hey, yeah, that guy's still an asshole, even though he's dead, or he was an asshole. So it looks a lot worse, a lot more serious when so many people are like searching his name or he's in the news a lot. But yeah, I mean, she just hasn't changed her tune. She thought he was an asshole before, and then when he died, she was like, yep, he was an asshole.
She's consistent.
Yeah,
I like that.
And I mean,
It's
regarding
horrible.
my like last little thing, I think I really like this discussion we've had. I think we've had some really probably way better than any of the podcasts I've listened to, and it's great having both sides. And I think you two kind of agree on a lot.
yeah,
I just want
we're
both
on the same
sides.
Very
page.
little what you said was like disagreeing with one another. And it was great getting both sides. Like the simple view that I got from it was that yeah, in her years as a career developer, especially as a woman, she's been subject to extra not necessarily harassment and abuse, but just kind of like doubting. And I read a Twitter thread by some other person, another female developer, who said like even like partners she's had have been like, oh, in that game, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And it's constantly been like told, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And it's pretty much what that dude had said was like, hey, do you fancy why not try branching dialogue paths? And I think she snapped at him. I don't think what she said was right. I wouldn't have done that. But then again, I wasn't in her shoes. And then like the Twitter mob did come on and made it huge. If nobody had noticed it, she wouldn't have been fired. It's pretty obvious that. Or if very few, if it hadn't escalated to what it was, she wouldn't have been fired. Then the next day, if like ArenaNet should have just been like, okay, I'll call you in. Yeah, maybe even make an announcement. Yeah, they've been suspended pending an investigation. Investigate it, and she'll have hopefully said, yeah, look, I've been subject to this. I snapped. I apologize. And then they'd have been like,
that's what you
okay,
think happened, or
that's what should have happened.
Yeah.
And they should have given her the chance to calm down. Just chill, take a few days off, come back, and then we'll then assess it. And but instead they just went really heavy-handed and sacked her. And then I think pretty much everybody working at ArenaNet's going to be like, oh shit, one wrong tweet,
That's how it is.
one wrong tweet, and we can get fired.
Yeah, just to play kind of devil's advocate on that a little bit, because I've heard that kind of narrative a lot, and I kind of get that. I definitely get the sense from reading about this person and kind of seeing the way that they've kind of presented themselves previously. Let's say that kind of sequence of events happens, and she gets into a room with like senior managers within that business, and they say, look, we get it. We agree with you. This person was being condescending, but you know what? You work for this company. You can't. This is just going to cause more harm. It's worth for you and for us. You just need to stop it. Does this strike you as the type of person that would say, okay, she in her Twitter bio, it literally says, I block often. I won't play Demir for you. She's clearly saying that, you know what, I'm up to be feisty. There's going to be a bit of a fight, a bit of a war of words if we get into it. Now, I just don't think that this person is necessarily going to say, yeah, okay, I get it, boss. I overreacted. You know what? I'll play cool on Twitter. I imagine that if that conversation did happen, that she doubled down on it. And then from that employer's point of view, how do you win with that? So this isn't an ideal situation. Like Flighty said, nobody's won. But what do you do? So if this person, outside of you saying you can no longer go on Twitter, which no company really does that isn't the way that this stuff works. It's that just present yourself in a certain way or don't present us in a certain way, I guess. Outside of saying, okay, you're banned from Twitter, which won't happen. They're not her parents at the end of the day. If she can't give assurances that she's not going to fucking snap at a member of the community and create a fucking firestorm like she has, what choice do you have as an employer other than to cut it off and know that you're probably gonna get smacked around in the in the podcasts and
as
on
Naroxen
Reddit,
in the chat
stuff
says,
like that.
they didn't give her a chance. You know, that
Yeah.
chance wasn't given
And
to her.
How many
if
chances does she? Again,
The thing is, she said that she'd never.
Like I said, this person left the previous
But
company that she worked for in
she
very
has
similar
stated that she's.
circumstances. I very much doubt that however long she's worked for this company, I doubt that she's been.
She stated
know.
this is the first time she's had like any disciplinary taken against her. Like this is the first time ever for her in that company.
I'm curious as to why the company didn't assess the situation as such. Why did she react that way? What's going on in her life that made her feel this way? Why did she snap at someone like this? What can we as a company do differently to make her job, less stressful? What are we doing wrong as a company? Because she said specifically that it's her job that makes her that made her respond that way, and it could be her job that makes her dislike the community that way. So it sounds like the company just showed no empathy, basically. Like they're not interested in the well-being of their employees. They're interested in the well-being of their reputation, and I feel like dealing with her well-being would have increased their positive reputation, because not a lot of companies do shit like that, and I think the video game industry would be a really good place to kind of start, like, set a precedent for companies giving a shit about their employees.
I feel like in the UK you get that a lot more.
Way different laws, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely,
again, maybe I'm misreading this person. I'd be very surprised if she would be comfortable with that company coming out and saying, "Oh, she's having a bad day, guys. She's got a lot going on. The job's really stressful. Sorry, she had a bad day. She's just going to carry on now." I don't think she would like that, based on what I've seen in the way, again, that she kind of carries herself. She's very strong-willed, has clearly very kind of set opinions on this very particular topic of people kind of countering her and giving suggestions and stuff like that. Like I said earlier, I don't think she sees herself as a victim, and I think for that, and I agree with what you've said. And to be honest, in the company that I work for, that's pretty much the route that it would go. I think in the kind of cutthroat world of video game development in the United States of America, the company's got no onus to do that, but let's assume that they do. Companies are made up of people. There's going to be some kind of empathy there. Like I said, I find it difficult to envisage a situation where they could both make amends with the community has been spoken to, because let's face it, like, not everybody's a fucking. I get that a lot of these people are male, but we're not all evil, I promise you. And I'm sure a lot of these people were genuinely kind of feeling a bit shit about the fact that somebody that worked for this company spoke to somebody this way when they were just trying to kind of have their say and give a bit of feedback or have a kind of dialogue. I find it difficult to understand how they could marry those two and get the community back on side, and also let Jessica Price feel that she's been allowed to blow off steam in the way that she feels that she should be allowed to. I just don't see those two marrying up, and I think that was the predicament that they found themselves. And my assumption is that I reckon there's probably been things previously that she's probably disagreed with kind of management on. Like I said, she's got a long history of feeling this way, and whether we agree or disagree in terms of how she feels about this stuff, I can tell you how a corporate entity would feel about it, and it's not very positive. So yeah. But to go back to my original point, like I said, I'm not here to she should get fired or not. She seems extremely fucking intelligent. I'm sure she's great at her job. I'd rather be in the position that she should be in. But for me, this issue stems from the way that this was presented within games media. I fucking cringed at every single outlet that talked about this. There's been none of the nuance. It is all completely just. I totally get the arguments about women in the industry and just women in general being prone to far more abuse than guys is something that I'm grateful for every day, that I don't have to go through that stuff. But for the media to, in my mind, patronize women and just pretend that they're complete and utter victims and not present the whole argument, and then to patronize me as a listener to assume that I'm not going to want the full story, or that I couldn't have the full story and come to my own conclusion about it, really fucking pissed me off.
Blighty, final say, I think. God, it's 12:15.
Well, I mean, I can't. I think I'm in a very, very specific camp here, especially as somebody who has a lot of experience as a woman in tech and kind of as a woman of color in the general world. Like I see a lot of patterns, and the patterns do not make me comfortable or happy. So I definitely, I I sympathize with her more than I sympathize with the company, and I think that regardless of anything that happened. Um, I'm glad that this did happen because people are having more conversations about uh, how to change how employees are treated in the industry. And it's unfortunate that the dude got snapped on, and it's unfortunate that she got fired. They were both kind of like that was just the cause and effect of everything that happened. But I am glad that it's opening up a lot of these conversations. So I'm really interested to see where this goes.
Yeah. All right.
Agreed.
Great. Yeah, I'm. That was a lot. That was really interesting. I'm gonna put that as a separate video, I think, on YouTube as well, to for people that want to jump to it, because